Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering our current events on our Thursday morning Rise and Shine. So, our current events this morning are going to be along the line of natural health. I'm going to be talking about dealing with pain and in the backdrop or the foreground, whichever way, we're dealing with the opiate epidemic and just the pain part of it, or what some people I think are causing, driving up some of these numbers. So, welcome again to our live talk program. Hopefully, you had a blessed night rest and you're ready to take on today. Let us pray. Our Father, what in heaven, we thank thee again for your word and the light that you give to us. I pray to may bless us as we walk humbly before thee. May we receive of your word this morning here. May you bless my mind as I communicate. Be with us, we pray for Christ's sake. Amen. So again, our topic is dealing with pain. So I'm going to talk about some ways to deal with pain other than painkillers while talking about. So dealing with pain, some different methodologies to deal with pain. Because I believe that part of the problem that's going on is that many people are in pain. Now, I know some of the pain that people are feeling are mental pain, but not talking about that type of pain this morning here. We're talking about just your regular muscle or skeleton, muscle skeletal pain, pain you feel in your body. So that's what I want to talk about this morning here. And some methodologies, some things you can do to help yourself with that type of pain, because those pains can be debilitating, and then a person seek for some remedy, and in seeking the remedy becomes the problem. And so this is where I believe many people end up on these type of drugs, painkillers. So this is where we'll be going this morning. So I have three articles to share with you, and information about some information about overcoming pain. And so we start on this morning here with this piece that was current, and it is a report that was done, and it's from NBCnews.com. And it's a report that was done that is entitled "One in Three Americans Took Prescription Opiates, Painkillers in 2015," surveys say. So, 1 in 3 Americans took some type of prescription opiate in 2015. So, this is a survey that came out this week. Now, how many Americans are using, and this is written by Corey Masco from NBC News, and it says, how many Americans are using prescription opiates, opiate painkiller? About 1 in 3. That's a stunning number in a new survey Monday from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, which calculate that a whopping 91 million Americans used drugs like OxyContin and Vicodin in 2015. And nearly 5% of adults surveyed told researchers they took these drugs without their doctor's permission, the study reported. They didn't get their meds from some seedy drug dealer either. The most common reported source were friends and relatives for free, study reported, or a physician. So the most common source for many that receive the drugs, they get it from friends, relatives, and also is reported their physician. So the source of the OxyContin and the Vicodin is primarily from good sources, reputable sources. So the National Institute on Drug Abuse (NIDA) study was released on the same day that the Presidential Opiate Commission, chaired by New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, released its first report and recommendations for tackling an opiate plague that killed more than 15,000 people in 2015, according to the Federal Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The study urged President Donald Trump to declare a national emergency and noted that America is enduring a death toll equal to September level every 3 weeks. As access to prescription opiate tightens, consumers increasingly are turning to dangerous street opiates, heroin, fentanyl alone, or combined, and mingle with cocaine and other drugs, the Commission stated in an interim report to Trump. NIDA said the treatment of pain is the root of the problem. Our results are consistent with findings that pain is poorly addressed clinical and public health problem is a poorly addressed clinical and public health problem in the United States, and that it may be a key part to the pathway to misuse or addiction, the group stated in the study. NIDA's recommendations include better prevention and treatment of underlying disorders are necessary to decrease pain and the morbidity and mortality associated with opiate misuse, the study says. Simply restricted access to opioids without offering alternative pain treatments may have limited efficacy in reducing prescription opiate abuse. It could also lead people to seek prescription opioids outside the health system or to use non prescription opiates such as heroin, illicitly made fentanyl, which could increase health misuse and overdose risk. President Trump launched the commission in March 29 to tackle a drug problem that kills an estimated 78 Americans per day. In their report, the Christie-led commission made several recommendations. Among other things, they suggested expanded treatment facilities across the country, educating doctors about the proper way to prescribe pain medication, equipping all police officers with the anti-overdose remedy naloxone, developing new fentanyl detection sensors, and improving data sharing among law enforcement agencies. The article continues that since 1999, the number of opiate overdose in America have quadrupled, and Presidential Commission stated not coincidentally in that same period the amount of prescription opioids in America have quadrupled as well. The commission first reported on the federal response to the opioid crisis was supposed to be released 90 days after Trump launched in March, but it was delayed twice while the Republican-led House and then the Senate tried and failed to repeal and replace Obamacare. Critics says Obamacare repeal plans. Critics says the Obamacare repeal plans the GOP was pushing would have gutted existing programs that have been helping legions of substance abusers kick their habits. Meanwhile, the Democrats accuse Chris Christie and Trump administration of dragging its feet on the issue. There's money available, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Sunday. The commission is supposed to put forward the best way to spend that, and they haven't done that. Christie insisted that the delay were necessary because they got far more input from the public than they had expected. Criminal justice professor Brian Levine said the feeling among many academics is that Trump's commission is window dressing. Like many initiatives coming out of the administration, it hampers by the chaos around management. Levine of the California State University San Bernardino told NBC News. Moreover, there seemed to be a concentration of rhetoric and law enforcement responses at a time when resources from health and addiction are on the chopping block. Levine, a former New York City police officer who walked a beat in Manhattan at the height of the crack epidemic, said arresting people won't end the opioid crisis. The research indicates that law enforcement alone, absent a systematic medical and counseling response, is due to fail, Levine says. And so this is why we're here this morning here. Just want to encourage you of trying to to try some different things when you're dealing with pain. So as you deal with pain from day to day, to attempt using other sources, other things to try to deal with that pain, because as you know, a large percentage, as you say here, 1 in 3 Americans are taking some type of opiate. Some do it for pain, some do it for recreational, to feel better. So it's going to be pain. It's going to be mental pain or physical pain, muscle or skeleton type pain. Whatever the pain is, but primarily we focus here on the physical pain. It's important to have some of the tools available that when the pain hits you, because when pain hits you, you're you get desperate, and desperation will lead for you to want to make the pain go away. That's logical. And the pain goes away, but as I'm going to cover a little bit later, but the addiction often follows very quickly behind. So want to be able to find some other natural remedies, natural sources to deal with the pain. And this is what I want to talk about this morning here, to share some little tools you can do to increase your ability to deal with pain naturally, so that you're not in that category of Americans who, because of the pain, you're almost forced to go to some serious painkillers. And normally these are opiates that can be so addictive, or they are addictive. So consider that well, and this is important. Notice they say here counseling is needed. Other method is needed than to arresting or locking up people cannot be the only option, because again, this is not dealing with the pain. Again, if you're in pain and you're taking the opiate and arrest you and you stop taking the opiates, you're still going to be in the prison in pain. And pain is what's putting many people from all walks of life, people from all backgrounds and experience. Pain drives them to these things, and then they take the drugs and they overdose. So we'll come up with that in a little bit. Next article I want to share with you here, just talking about the widespread problem, and that this problem with drugs is just a human problem caused by the body and the decay, the weakening of the body. Now think about this. Now, if we're talking about pain, and we need to find natural ways to deal with pain, then the people that should be having the most problem with pain would be people who are older, right? So normally when you think about drugs, you want to think about somebody. Normally we think about somebody younger and probably doing it because they want to have fun and so forth. But then when you think about this concept of pain and pain management, the person that will come to mind is not so much a younger person, but it's normally an older person. If it's a younger person, you normally think probably for the most part, probably they were athletes or something and they damaged themselves some way, or somebody's in some type of accident or something. But when you think about pain now, as I say, you're normally thinking about an older person, because that's a person age. A lot of the degeneracy that comes with aging, and the body start to wear away, will come with pain, severe pain and long-term pain. A lot of the lifestyle practices that we do when we're younger, thinking we're trying to live life to the fullest, normally brings us a lot of pain as we get older. And so we want to be able to know how to deal with pain without having to do with something that could hasten our death. So the next article here is from AARP, and this was suggested to me by a listener or a member. So here, aarp.org, I pulled this article here that I find very fascinating to deal with this idea, because as I say, some things you can almost figure it out without thinking too hard. So here we go, American addiction to pain pills. So this is a series that AARP is doing. You can go in there and see it yourself, but I'm going to read 2 articles from them here this morning. Americans over 50 are using narcotic pain pills in surprising high numbers, and many are becoming addicted. While media attention has focused on younger people buying illegal opiates on the black market, dependence can also start with a legitimate prescription from a doctor. A well-meant treatment for knee surgery or chronic back trouble is often the path to a deadly outcome. Consider these numbers. Almost one third of all Medicare patients, nearly 12 million people, were prescribed opiate painkillers by their physicians in 2015. The same year, 2.7 million Americans over age 50 abused painkillers, meaning they took them for reasons or in amounts beyond what their doctors prescribed. The hospitalization rate due to opiate abuse has quintupled for those 65 and older in the past 2 decades. So while the average in America, from the previous article, the average hospitalization or overdose or whatever it is was about 4 times. For people 65 and older, it's 5 times because you're older. If you're older, your body's not as strong. So forth and so on. So if your body's not as strong and you're having problems or any problem with liver, kidney, the organs are getting weaker, hitting it with some serious painkillers that suppress the immune system, I could see why there will be a lot of hospitalization, 5 times more for people 65 and older. So this is a lot of hospitalization. And remember, this is part of why America is in such terrible shape when it comes down to your healthcare costs. Next piece here, continue. The hospitalization rate due to opiate abuse is quintupled, beyond the number or the shattered lives of many who never dream they'd become drug abusers. So imagine somebody 65 live a faithful life, serve the Lord, love the Lord, live a moral life, didn't do anything crazy, didn't partake in the 70s with the 60s, 70s with the drugs and sex and rock and roll and all that. Now they're in their 60s, 70s now, and now they're living a life as if they're a rock and roller, simply because of pain. You see, this is why we need some natural ways to deal with that, especially for those who don't believe in using drugs, period. So here we go. So it's Sidney Thoma, 63, who owns and operates a bookstore in Muskegon, Michigan, became addicted to opiate pain pills after being injured in a car crash with a drunk driver who ran a red light. I was running away from my pain, she says. I did well at first, but I began to take them sooner, which meant I need more. I need more because my body got used to the narcotics. The way opiates are often prescribed depends. Dependence can set in after just a few days, expert says. Within 1 week, you've made that person physiologically dependent upon the drugs, meaning they feel some discomfort or side effects when they stop using, says Andrew Kolodny, Executive Director of Physicians for Responsible Opiate Prescribing. So, pause there again for the article. So, just keep that in mind. A person will start taking an opiate because they're in pain. This lady here, Cindy, 63, got into a car accident, start taking painkillers. But the painkillers, the dependency, that means a physiological, so not a mental now, a physiological dependency can set in within days to a week, within 1 week. So you start taking it on Sunday, by Saturday, you're thinking about going to church, and you're like, no, I can't go because if I go, I have to take the painkillers with me. But you're not taking it because of the pain anymore. You're taking it because physiologically, that means inside your body you probably start feeling a fever, you start feeling hot, you start feeling discomfort, you start feeling like you're getting sick, and okay, if I take this painkiller or this drug, my sickness will go away. So you have a physical, not just a mental dependency. So let's start playing with your mind. Back to the article. So Cindy Thoma, 63, sober for 5 years following an 8-year opiate addiction. Thoma stopped abusing opiate after years of struggle, but for too many, their stories end badly. Nearly 14,000 people aged 45 plus died from opiate overdose in 2015. 42% of all such deaths in the US, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So 42% of people die near 45 and older. So we're not talking about just your children that's out there trying to have fun. This, I believe, is primarily linked to pain management. The actual number is likely much higher. Overdoses in older adults are often mislabeled as heart failure or falls, Colodny says. So I'll pause here again because you've heard it. You see the person probably a week before, you see them next time, you say they fall. They'd be like, they fall. Or heart failure. Normally, heart failure is associated with people who take cocaine. The heart becomes too large and they just die. Heart gives out. So that's telling me, and for years I've been hearing this idea that the drug epidemic in America is larger than most people consider. Because remember, opiates are one class of drugs. So if you have one class of drugs, that 1 in every 3 person is using, and that's not touching other drugs, then it tells you, give us an idea how massive this drug problem is in America. And as I say, a lot of this has to do with pain. So that's where my focus is this morning as I try to weave through this information here. So when you look at it, the actual number is higher because they're realizing that many of the people are dying from pneumonia, are not dying from pneumonia per se, they're dying from the immune system being suppressed by the use of heroin or some type of opiates, and then the person died of pneumonia. But the cause is not per se pneumonia, there's a cause to the pneumonia. So if you keep that in mind, the numbers are much higher. So when they say how much thousand people died, take those numbers as a grain of salt. The numbers are much elevated. And with those numbers being higher, that means the numbers of older people dying. And the initial issue was they had a heart problem or they had a fall or something. It's drugs. This is the amount of drugs being pumped into the old. And you think about the average old person living the American life, eating American diet, which we're going to get to in a second, have a lot of pain. And what's going to be you have pain and there's something to get rid of the pain. They just take the drugs. And you can understand what it is going on. So the person has pain, take something to do pain management, and voila, the problem goes away, but you're creating other problems. So just keep that in mind as we look at this more here, dealing with pain. Sorry dear. So it says we're overestimated. We're overestimated. We overestimated the benefits of opiates and underestimated the risk, says Dowell, senior medical advisor at the CDC. We assumed without adequate evidence that they would work as well long term as they did in short term. Pharmaceutical companies have marketed opiate aggressively to physicians, especially after the Federal Drug Administration approved OxyContin in 1995. The campaign that led to the increase in opiate prescription was multifaceted, Colodny says. For example, Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin, held pain management conferences in states like Florida that were attended by more than 5,000 doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. So beginning in the late 90s, when older patients suffering from chronic conditions like arthritis and back issues asked for pain relief, their doctors innocently wrote prescription for OxyContin, Vicodin, Percocet, and other opiate painkillers. By 2012, addiction rates and numbers of overdose deaths had soared. In that year, 259 million opiates prescriptions were written, enough for every adult in the USA to have one of those little slips. Many doctors still think seniors can't get addicted. This is the same gentleman here in the interview with Andrew Colodny, executive director for Physician for Responsible Opiate Prescribing. And so this is part. I'll pause here again. This is part of. And think about this with me here now. This is part of what you call like mindset. Like you really can't see per se. Like it's not natural to see grandma or or grandpa, like the concept of them hooked on drugs, taking shooting themselves with heroin. It's just it seems like it's a wrong thought. You know, that concept seems wrong, and I think that's where now go back to that statement that Andrew Colundi says. Many doctors still think seniors can't get addicted. Can't get it because if you think about addiction in the movies, in the idea is always a young person. You see young people dying of all this drug overdose. So just the thought that grandma is 40%, 42% of people on the drugs are 45 and older. The thought that there's people in our churches are dying from opiate overdose, from heroin overdose, just that thought, it just makes sense, especially if the person is an older, stable person in the church. They got a knee problem, they got a back problem. They went to their doctor because the pain is severe. I understand pain, and they go there. The doctor say, "Here you go." They take it. It gives them release. They're like, "Thank you, Jesus. Just thank you, Lord, for your blessings." And then now, a week later, they're like, what is going on? And now they're on this thing, and they have now physiological dependence and mental dependence and so forth. And they're a pillar in the church. And the next you know, they die, and there's word out that they die of a drug overdose. And they're older person. That's not a good thought. And I can see why doctors, probably not intentionally, but just not thinking, oh, but this patient I'm giving this drug is going to be addict. I'm probably going to be going to the street. And from you can imagine going to some of the rough neighborhoods in our communities, and some of the rough streets that they would never go on. But now they're going on those streets to go buy these drugs. Continue read it here. The trade group responsible representing most opiate manufacturers, the PHRMA or Pharma, did not return calls for comments. Purdue Pharma said in a statement, the opiate crisis is among our nation's top health challenges, and the company is committed to being part of the solution. That's a good statement because I'm in this also. I believe the opiate crisis is among our nation's top health challenges, and since I'm into health and I'm into the salvational part of the Bible much, um, I'm committed. This is why I keep doing these programs because I really want to encourage people to find other solutions, as we'll cover here this morning. The teaching in medical school used to be that opiate medication is not addictive as long as it is given to someone in legitimate pain. Something we now know is not to be true, said Vivek Murthy, who left the job of U.S. Surgeon General in April. It did not help that in 2009, the American Geriatric Society encouraged physicians to use opiates to treat moderate to severe pain in older patients, citing evidence that they were less susceptible to addiction. Though the society revised those guidelines, the myth persists. Many doctors still think seniors can't get addicted, Colundi says again. So just think about it. The American Geriatrics Association, looking at something that's an opiate, something that its source are normally a very addictive, some of the most addictive substance on earth. And they were telling doctor if a person have moderate, not severe, but moderate to severe pain, you should prescribe them opiates because they're less susceptible to addiction. And I think that's what the problem is, where it comes on to, our fuzzy emotional feelings something about somebody older, that they're not susceptible to whatever thing that another person. But I just look at it, no matter what the person is, black, white, Asian, whatever, the person is susceptible to all type of sin. No matter if the person is young or old, the person is susceptible to all type of sin. I think the difference here with the older person is that the older person's body and desires probably are not as acute, and the abilities are not as acute, and so somebody's susceptibility is seen in that way. So it is like a skewed idea of susceptibility. In other words, if a man is older and his reproductive organs are not working as effective as when he was in his 20s or 30s, well, it's not that says he's not mentally or not susceptible to lusting or stuff like that. It's just that he's not physically as able, and probably that his brain is not as hamped up on hormones as he would be in his earlier years. But his susceptibility is still there. So I think, it's that emotional view of somebody older. Almost there now. Last August, the then Surgeon General Murthy wrote a letter to every doctor in America. Nearly 2 decades ago, we were encouraged to be more aggressive about treating pain, often without enough training and support to do so safely. The letter says this coincides with the heavy marketing of opiates to doctors. Many of us were even taught incorrectly that opiates are not addictive when used as pain relief. The result has been devastating. The CDC issued guidelines that last year recommended that doctors drug test their patients before and during opiate therapy to ensure that the medications are taken properly. But doctors still overprescribe. In 2016, survey by nonprofit National Safety Council found that 99% of physicians prescribe opiate beyond the dosage limit of 3 days recommended by the CDC. So just think about that. So if you go to your doctor, there's a 99% chance that your doctor will give you more opiate than what is recommended. And so if the addiction gets at it within days to a week, you're getting more than 3 days for the chronic pain. So you just did a surgery, 3 days. For the next 3 days, you're going to be in chronic pain. After that, you need to go to something, a lighter painkiller. Doctor will give you enough probably for a week, 2 weeks. Now we're the problem. The person didn't use it and let's sell it, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. Thoma has no trouble getting opiates. I could get them from different doctors, and there was no communication between them about what they were prescribing. She says, you could get it fairly easily. In 8 years, she lost her job and home and went bankrupt. Finally, she forced herself to stop. I was very, very sick. My mind was not right for a long, long time. As people age, they can become more at risk for dependence or overdose. To start, they are more likely to have serious pain. Kidney and liver function slow with age. This is something I was saying earlier, increasing the time the drug remains in the system, and memory loss can make it harder to maintain opiate medication effectively. So can't even remember how long the person was taking it. Solving the problem will require major changes, expert says. There is an urgent need for more treatment centers to administer to older patients. That include counseling tailored to older patients. It doesn't work to have a button up, elderly person sitting next to a guy in his 20s who is pierced and, and tattooed, says David Friends, a Minneapolis physician certified in addiction medicine. And doctors need to be trained on medications used to treat opiate addictions, expert says. There's need for major attitude shift as dealing with somebody older. Thomas has opiate free for several years. She bought her bookstore in 2013, which helped refocus her life. She offers this advice for those who are dealing with drug issues. Ask your provider to monitor your intake very closely. Consider trying non-addictive options first. Be patient with yourself. Involve family members and friends to encourage you and with your fight. Be prayerful, right? So it's not just I just go there and grab a prescription anymore. Be very careful. So this is important for all of us, because remember, if you're going to go through chronic pain, as they're saying, according to their research, 99% of doctors out there will give you overdose, give you more dosage than you're needed for the chronic pain. So if you're going to go through a surgery, go through something, you go through severe pain, they'll give you more. So you have to be very careful and be very prayerful. And as she says, if you think that this is a need or something, involve others. Make sure you have some type of what you call support, so that if you start getting out of control, that you have somebody that you can lean on or people you can lean on to help you out. Because again, it is not the image that has always been put forward in the media is that idea that the doctor says. It's imagine you're going to drug rehab or to overcome drug, and an older person might feel ashamed. You're gonna have to be sitting there with somebody tattooed up and in their 20s and looking all grungy and street, and you're next to that person trying to overcome, you know, your addiction. That in itself can be a problem. That can be a deterrent for a person to come out and say, "Look, I'm addicted. I'm going through this. I'm part of the crisis that is hitting America." So just realize that this is not what the Lord would have you live. This is not the way the Lord would have you live. So don't sit there and just quietly go through your addiction. Know that the Lord would have this, and know that when we're in this type of bind, it doesn't matter if it's moral or sinful or whatever bind, that we need to have some reach out to some people and some professionals and ask for help to be able to get off this thing, because this thing will kill you. Now, before I go to my last article and I start share some ideas when it come on to painkillers, hopefully I can get this through this before my hour is up. One of the things that was calling me to talk about this and talk about this more, because I was reading an article a few weeks ago, this person on the internet about the opiate epidemic, and I was reading something about in Maine. And I was reading this quite interesting article, and I'm having a problem. I can't find the article because I can't remember what source I was reading. But I was just searching for different articles. Anyhow, so I was reading this article. And it was a quite interesting article where this guy, for years, is a news reporter, and I can't remember his name. That's my problem. Anyhow, just I'm saying this just in case you hadn't read the article yourself, you know where to find it. And he was talking about in the article how he, for years, was an advocate for legalizing drugs across the board, because countries like, say, Portugal, have legalized, decriminalized, I should say, decriminalized drugs across the board, all drugs. If you're caught with, less than a week worth of drugs, you're good. So anyhow, he said for years, and he says he believed in this for years until the opiate epidemic hit. And then he realized just using the thing is dangerous because it will kill you. And that you can't just legalize all drugs across the board, because there's drugs like fentanyl, heroin, various different Oxycontin, Vicodin, that if it gets out of control, and normally drugs gets out of control because the drugs, you start to become physiologically and mentally dependent, and this causes drugs, you can't use it judiciously. Bam, people are dying. And all of a sudden, deaths that are occurring made him pull back and say, well, probably we need to not legalize or decriminalize all drugs. Some drugs are terrible. We need to be able to have some controls. So keep that in mind. I'm going to read this last one here, and I'll share a few quick tips for you when it comes down to deal with pain, because I think, in my understanding, pain is a primary driver that gets a person to a doctor to say, help me with my pain. The doctor say, I have something powerful for you. You take this and you get rid of your pain. Now, new opiate dealers. Older Americans now still deal with older Americans, because remember, 42%, this is a new paradigm here, 42% of people died of heroin overdose are 45 and older. So, and I think the number is even higher. And I'm going to say this now because I know probably a few months to a year from now, they're going to come out and say the number is higher with older people, because older people take lots of drugs, and most doctors and people and their families don't believe that older people can get addicted. Older Americans are selling their prescription painkillers to drug pushers. Over a span of about 2 years, this is from AARP again, and this is part of a series they're doing this year on drugs. So over a span of about 2 years, Alando Dodo, a 29-year-old drug dealer, sold thousands of prescription painkillers on the illicit drug market near Sacramento, California. Finding customers was easy. The hard part was finding a supply of pills, a reliable source. Older people, Dodo says, in an email sent from federal prison, Arizona, where he is serving a 12-year sentence on drug charges. They are older people, they want to make some extra money and don't mind selling the pills. Interviews with law enforcement members across the country, along with reviews of court cases, confirm the retirement age Americans have become a new source of illicit prescription painkillers sold on the open market. Some sell their pills due to financial crisis or to make ends meet. Others are victims of drug dealers who target them for their prescriptions. And in some cases, caregivers and family members are pilfering their medications for profit or to feed their own addictions. What helps fuel this troubling trend is not just the poverty faced by some older people, it's also their ability to easily gain prescriptions from doctors. If they discover they can make $20 a pill on the street, then it becomes a temptation to supplement their income, according to Charlie Chicon, executive director of the National Association of Drug Diversion Investigators. While there are no precise statistics to gauge the size of the problem, law enforcement official from New York to Los Angeles says that older people selling prescription medications is a real issue. The reason for the lack of data, federal prosecutors focus their efforts on large-scale opiate pushers. And local prosecutors say there is a reluctance to prosecute people at a near retirement age for selling their relative small cachet of prescription drugs. These factors have allowed problems to remain below the radar. But treatment workers and researchers who study addiction say the prescription drugs of older Americans often end up on the open market. We know some of the older patients use their prescription as a strategy for increasing income, says Sharon Walsh, director of the University of Kentucky Center for Drug and Alcohol Research in Lexington, Kentucky. Walsh also Walsh said older Americans who sell prescription do not operate like traditional drug dealers. Instead, they sell and sometimes share their medications through a network of friends and family members, often without a good understanding of the dangers and potential legal consequence. So before I keep going there, I just want to pause there a little bit because think about it. Now, this is the type of stuff that's happening. So you have an older person and they're taking a candy. This candy happens to be Oxycontin, Vicodin, whatever it is for pain. And they can sell it and share it amongst friends and family. Just share the love. And this is important because, again, as Christians, we're not supposed to be dealing with illicit drugs. Even at baptism, we commit to not be dealing in illicit drugs. But these are legal drugs now. These are not heroin. They're not per se the ones that the society is concerned about, that the bad people use. These are what the good people use. So you can understand how mindset, because remember, it's still drugs, but it's now the good drugs, not the bad one, but it's still as bad as the bad drugs. So we keep reading here. People, especially in rural communities, they don't see anything wrong with selling or sharing prescription medication. Walsh says it's a cultural accepted thing to supply medication to a person who is in pain. In January, a 74-year-old woman in Kingsport, Tennessee, was sentenced to probation for selling prescription pain pills after police seized more than 100 oxycodone pills and cash from her home. So, that's a few $1,000s there. That's not, that's a decent amount of money. Ken Chitwood, the assistant district attorney who prosecuted the case, says about 1 in 10 of the prescription drug cases he prosecutes involves older adults. Some may have economic reasons why they choose to sell their drugs, Chitwood said. Others have a long history and continue to do these things until they're elderly years. Prescriptions are challenging because juries are surprised to see an older person on trial, and judges are reluctant to give jail time, law enforcement official says. Captain Jeff Orr, president of Ohio Task Force Commanders Association, says for older drug sellers who are caught, it's often their first brush with the law. If we so just pause here again. So remember I was saying earlier that person could have missed all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the 70s, could miss all the crack epidemic in the 80s, could miss a whole bunch of stuff. Now they're older and they're settled in life, have a home, a career, retired, have grandkids, just living good. And now not only are they selling the drugs, I mean, they're using the drugs in the previous article, they're now also selling the drugs. That's some fascinating stuff there going on. So we continue here from Orr. If we get information about sellers, we are following up on it. Are they going to prison for it? No, Orr says. They're being diverted to probation at that age. Austin Serb, a convicted drug dealer in Boise, Idaho, said he knew many older people who sold their prescription. A patient who is prescribed 3 pills a day can make up to $3,600 a month selling them. That's a lot. Serb says, it's too tempting, especially if they need the money. Serb wrote from a federal prison in Colorado. Once they do it, they keep doing it. Captain Steve Arthur of Baldwin County Sheriff Office in Alabama said he sees few cases in which older people set out to sell drugs. More often, drug dealers recruit them, either with threats or promises of money to get prescriptions that they later sell at a steep markup. And in some cases, fraudulent and careless prescribing has left older patients with more opiate pills than they need. The flow of opiate from older Americans to the street isn't always at a profit. Pills often are stolen by home health workers, taken from medicine cabinets by family members and visitors, and sometimes just given away. But for drug dealers like the Doe, older Americans will continue to provide an irresistible opportunity to secure profitable pills. The old lady next door might be a great supplier, he says. Right? So this is what's going on. So this is the face of how the problem is. So the more we understand about what's going on with the drug epidemic, is the more we see why it is so entrenched and why so many people are dying from it. Because what you have is what we have is basically various different sources that normally would not be considered as a source, and so there's the older people would be a great source because they're undetected, right? So here now I'm going to share with you some little tidbits of some things you can do to basically reduce your pain, right? So most actually, hot and cold is something to be used. Hot and cold treatment with ice, water, either one way or the other. If you want to increase flow of blood or decrease flow of blood, or do both, to be able to get the blood flowing, hot and cold treatment is a very good thing to do on a different area, like a ice massage, because what you want to do also is get the flow of blood. Oftentimes blood is not flowing properly to a area, so if the area is not getting proper blood flow, then this will cause a problem. So hot and cold. So some ways to apply heat or cold to the body is via water, or via ice, or via electric pad for the heat, or via hot water bottle for the area, because many times it will ease, like a nice hot water bottle, not too hot, will give comfort to the area and make the pain reduce. The extra flow of blood will make the pain reduce. So this is something, another important thing to do to be able to reduce pain is to is basically to do like a massage. A massage will increase flow. It will take away some of the tension. Many times this could be a problem if you have muscle pain. and a massage, a nice massage. You can go and look up for like a percussion, similar to the word that describe a drum, drumming, a percussion massager. Percussion massages can be used to basically hammer away at the muscle area or the spot, that normally muscle area that is you're experiencing pain. So I personally have a percussion massager. So if you ever like hurt yourself in exercise or something, normally it's good to have somebody that can do a deep massage. Really know what they're doing to press hard in the muscle and to take away some of the tension and the pain. But another option is just to have a percussion massager that will hammer away at the pain. Not something that just vibrates, but it hits. All right. Also, what it is that you can do is basically experiment with your shoes, to purchase shoes that are more comfortable and comforting. So sometimes as individuals get older, they'll have shoes that will help them if they have been diabetes or any type of problems to do with circulation. So you can just get a black shoes that's very comfortable. I for one, almost all my shoes, except probably for what I wear for Sabbath, and even then it is comfortable. I make sure I buy shoes, even if it's a dress shoes that has padding inside of the shoes, to make sure that you're as comfortable, and make sure the shoes is the correct fit. And if you have certain type of difference in your foot, some type of, some people in the inside of their foot is higher or lower, they have flat feet, you get the shoes that is properly fit, or get insole or sole to fit that properly. What you can do also is soak in warm water and apply Epsom salt, which is high in magnesium, in the warm water, so that it will relax the muscle. So remember, you need calcium for contraction and magnesium for to relax the muscle. And so sometimes you could be having just a situation like Charlie horse, cramps, various different type of thing, or even any type of pain. It's always good to have an abundance of magnesium. But the ways to get it is to be able to do a foot bath or a full bath, and put magnesium in it. The warmth of the bath, the magnesium via the Epsom salt will help you to reduce your pain. Also, when it comes on to magnesium, and Sister Joyce, when I'm, listener, member, I'd suggested to me, and I tried it, and I've used it before, especially if I go jogging, is to have one of the spray on magnesium. You can find it online where you can spray the magnesium on. So if you are getting cramps after you go for a jog or anything, and you have a muscle cramp, you just spray the magnesium on, and it will absorb via the skin and take away some of that cramping and pain. So you don't have to use. You want to avoid as much using. Inactivity creates problem. It makes the ligaments, the muscle locked up. Sometimes people need chiropractic care because they're in the same position too long, too often, and so the system, muscle, and the skeletal system start to get locked up and jam into one place. I don't know how best to describe that, but you know what I'm talking about. So it's always best to try to do walks and jogs. And if you have a problem with your knee or your hips, go ahead and do some just brisk to moderate walks as much as you can. If you can do it at least 20 minutes 5 times a week, sorry, you do that. If you can't do that, then you do it 15 minutes 3 to 5 times a week. Whatever you can do it. The more flexibility and strength you have in your body, is the more your body will be able to deal with pain. Kind of on a side note, there's some of the things that I've tried myself. Stretching, very important to do, not just for exercise, but just in general. Stretching, hanging is another thing that you can do to basically pull along the spinal cord or column. So stretching and hanging. So your basic warm up stretches that you would do, you do that to help with pain, because sometimes your body just needed to have a little stretch, because we can spend too much time, sitting down watching television, looking at the computer, and all the the vertebrae, everything in your body just crushed down. As you get older, that's part of the reality. So stretching is important. Also having proper posture is important. Really back to stretching. So there's many different way you can stretch. You can stretch by hanging, hanging from your foot. I don't know if that's good if you're older. If you're younger, if you can do that, go for it. You can hang from your hand just by holding on to a bar and literally do nothing. Just hold as long as your wrist can take the pain, and then release and just let the body hang and just let the back pull on against itself and just kind of stretch. That's very important type of stretch where you try to touch your knee, touch your shin, touch your toes if you can, and slowly do it. Also, one of the stretch you can do is just to hang, where you drop your hand closest to your shin as possible or your knee, and just hang there and make the force of your weight pull on your back slowly. And if you do this at your own risk, as I say, I'm just telling you what you do, but you have to know where you're comfortable. If you start feeling too much pain, you need to pull back. Don't need to pull anything, and then contact me and say I told you to pull yourself up. So just do this. So better posture. Try as much as possible to sit and to sit where your back is flat and upright, perpendicular to the chair that you're seated on, the chair seat. As much as possible, you do this and you exercise this, because remember, a lot of the pains that we talked about earlier are pain in the back and other muscle pain, knee and hip pain. So you want to be able to do that. Another very important thing to do when we're dealing with pain is to make sure you're drinking adequate amount of water on a daily basis. Most actually more water in the summer, less water in the winter, but normally say on average 8 cups of water. You normally take your body, then you calculate whatever your weight is by ounce, and you drink that for the day. But most such as I say, winter and summer, it changes because sometimes, I don't know about you, but the day could be just hot, you're sweating, and you just need more water. Water is a good pain management because the nervous system fires along water, exits or whatever it's called. So that's important. If you can do pull-ups again, this will increase your shoulder muscle, and this will help with just your overall back pain. Another important thing to do is to lose weight. This is important. The more fat you have around your stomach is the more it throws your back out of line. Is the more fat you have overall, is the more it crushes your hips, crushes your knees, affect your ankle. And so a lot of severe pain come because of knee damage, hip damage. That's simply not caused because of exercise, but it's caused because of a person literally walking around as if they're in a gym every day with an extra 50, 100 pounds. So just imagine that is an extra 50 or 100 pounds that is sitting on your knee and sitting on your hip. As your hip walk, is grinding away at your hips. Just get rid of that weight. Take some herbal remedies and stuff to help that. A few more thoughts here before we go. Topical applying of any type of heat treatment that have like capsicum. This will help with muscle pain and other pains, whether it be a knee or anywhere else. Also doing vigorous rub so that you stimulate the body to set up not only the immune system, stimulate the immune system, but also the blood to flow to the area that you're having, so you can increase the healing, because remember, the blood carries the healing properties that you need. So friction massage. And also what you can do with water, as I suggested before, real quickly, rapid use of water. So you drink a cup of water, wait probably half an hour, and drink another cup of water. Even wait 10 minutes, drink another cup of water. Flush your body with water, and water sometimes will reduce this. Basically quiet yourself, try to breathe deeper, more oxygen to the body. It's the better it is for you. And take some herbal remedies. One of the herbal remedies that I believe and always encourage people to take is white willow bark in tea form. This is the forerunner to aspirin. You take that, it's very good. Make sure that you not constipated. You free your bowels, so that, because any constipation will increase pain. So make sure your bowels are flowing, and know wherever your pain is at, and try to deal with that. The more I could say here, but I'm out of time. So try to naturally use herbal remedies, use water, use exercise, use stretching, use breathing, use various different methods you can to deal with pain. Don't take for moderate, and I'm saying this without knowing your exact situation, but don't take for moderate pain or just light pain. Do not go for these powerful painkillers. Just use natural remedies and natural means, and God will bless you. And as the lady said, be prayerful. Really pray to the Lord and ask the Lord to help you deal with some of this pain. Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, again for your blessings. Pray to may be with everyone that's here and those that will listen later on in the podcast or on the live callback program. Pray you may bless them that they may find natural ways, dear Lord, to deal with the pain. And when all is said and done, we know, dear Lord, that you bless us with peace in our minds. So may you be with us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. God bless and thank you for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning where we should talk about wisdom for living. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.